I hear there's this conversation going on about what's it like working in big tech, and I just figured I'd weigh in. So let's get into it. First things first, the environment. For one, I think it should just be very clear that working in tech, working in the corporate space, at these high performing companies, it's definitely challenging. One thing that I wish was told to me is how mentally demanding the space is. Whether it's keeping up with your project and its deliverables and goals, managing up, hey, ensuring that your leadership team understands what your team is doing, could be managing down and or hey, collaborating with your immediate team. Could also be, hey, collaborating with teams outside of your team that are within your same organization. Just being aware of, hey, what's going on in the space outside of just your team, because any decisions or actions your team may be making, you want to just ensure, hey, there's no other team already working on this, just to mitigate any potential duplicate work. Also, there's ad hoc things that may pop up, hey, you need to be focused on this. Next thing you know, someone has a request where they have something that may be urgent to them. How do we now work that into your schedule? Different meetings, meetings are a big thing. Having the right meetings, when I say that, it's more about the conversations that help drive the work. We're not just having a meeting just to have the meeting, but understanding by having a meeting, there's a level of preparation or needs to take to prepare to go to that meeting to contribute and to have some type of value, and really to get something from the meeting themselves. You shouldn't just go to a meeting just to be in it. It's more, how are you going to drive conversation? And I think that's the best way to get some type of value. But tying that into overall, that's could be mentally demanding depending on the amount of practice one has with that type of stuff. Like I said, whether it's stakeholder management, you know, keeping up with the deliverables and the objectives of your team, interacting with teams outside of your team, interacting with teams outside of your organization, it all can be a lot. As someone who, fresh out of school, jumped right into it, it definitely took some time to kind of get accustomed to. Next thing I'll say is like very highly collaborative environment. Don't think that you can just come in and hey, work on something by yourself, stay heads down on it, complete it from beginning to end. That's just not how we work. It's important to gather the perspectives of your teammates and or maybe anybody who may have some type of knowledge on that topic or that area that you're working on. And I think not only does it open you up to potential new perspectives and new learnings, but it overall leads to better decisions being made for the org. You never want, hey, we're working on something that another team already did months ago, and the reason why you didn't know was because you just didn't interact with them. So highly collaborative environment that it's going to be important that you work on your communication to be effective in it, if you're interested. Next thing I would say is definitely ever evolving. And what I mean by this is, your priorities, your team's priorities may shift. We often have something what's known as reorganizations where, hey, one team may shift under another org. And as a result of that, that team's overall priorities may shift. Now, it doesn't mean their day to day work may shift all the time. Sometimes it does. But you now have to be thinking about, okay, our work hasn't changed, but how are we now going to meet this new organization's objectives? How is our work going to ladder up to what we're ultimately working toward? And I think it's key to just understand that that's when people say, "Oh, my day's never the same." That's a great example of one day you could be doing something, working toward one goal, and another day you could be working toward another. Yeah, now I'll get into the lifestyle. Now, you know, I can definitely say, and I think a lot of folks who work in big tech can say, it's an excellent work-life balance in the grand scheme of things. Throughout the year, there's periods where work is heavier than other times of the year. But I think overall, me being a remote employee, thankfully, I live on the East Coast. My team's on the West Coast. Work-life balance for me is pretty good. And that's one thing I appreciate. Being a new dad, new husband, just being able to, you know, work from home is really a blessing. And I'm definitely thankful for that. I really also appreciate the autonomy with the responsibilities I have. You know, I've never felt overly micromanaged to a point where it's like, oh, I can't do this. I think healthy check-ins from a manager is okay, and you need to be able to understand the difference between the two. But overall, I feel like with the work that I've done, the responsibilities that I've had, I've been allowed to just, hey, Stav, here you go. You know, handle it, and handling it may look like, hey, working with the team, and you don't have to feel like you have to do everything yourself, but it's more, hey, you're responsible for the success of this. How whoever you need to collaborate with, meet with, talk to, that's on you. We're not going to say, oh, dictate your schedule for how to do so. You come up with the plan, you come up with the idea, bring your team along the journey, and we just ultimately get it done. Another part of the lifestyle is you just have to take on a continuous learning mindset, and that's really it. You know, Especially working in tech, where things are ever evolving, technology's moving, new things are coming out. You just want to be aware of what's going on in the environment. Now, you don't need to know every detail of every area, but I think it's important to understand some type of high level knowledge about the areas that interest you, especially for your project area or the area you're working on the daily. You want to constantly show that, hey, like, you are learning and getting better. This company is investing in you, and ultimately you want to be able to, produce the best you can. But it's not about just what you're producing for the company. It's also about who you're becoming in the process. And if that's just as important to you as, hey, the results you're able to demonstrate on the job, you find more meaning out of your work, understanding like, okay, yes, this is another presentation, or yes, this is this code I have to write and or learn, but who am I becoming as a result of this presentation, or as a result of learning this new way to do this project, just for some examples. But ultimately, taking on that, hey, I don't know it today, but I can learn it along the way mentality. And that can take you beyond just career life. Like, that's something I just think everyone should just kind of, embody. But that's just me. Next thing, perks. All right, you guys love the perks. A big perk is, for me, is the personal development opportunities outside of work. You know, Whether it's, hey, they're funding a masterclass membership for us, or hey, I'm getting invited to speak to a panel of college students or aspiring like techies. Hey, these opportunities help me become a better speaker, which ultimately I'm trying to do, and which ultimately I love doing. I hope you guys can feel that. And I just appreciated that, yes, I'm growing professionally, but who I'm becoming personally as a result of putting myself daily into this space, it's priceless. And I know, it's only going to be an exponential growth. Right now, year 4, we haven't even really started the curve yet. But being patient through that and knowing that I will eventually, I'm going to see that growth. I'm going to see that, it's going to happen. So I'll digress there. Oh, lost my notes. Next thing is the networking. Can't stress this one enough. Whether you're working with someone who's directly on your team, I think the best way to get anybody to do anything for you, or to anybody to do anything with you, people have to like to work with you. That's one thing. And that's a version of networking where it's like, hey, how will somebody remember how you made them feel while working with them or having any conversation? In my time here, I've met so many people, like whether they were on the same coast I am, whether they're on the same team I am or not. The people been able to meet as a result of working in mid tech, who I've been able to spark conversations with just by having that commonality of like, hey, we don't work at the specific company together, but overall, hey, how is it like working there? That networking aspect of it has been very cool. Next thing is the benefits. I think one thing people often kind of look at is, oh, how much do you get paid? What's your yearly salary? But yes, there's a salary, but it's also cool to understand that there's also stock bonuses, there's yearly bonuses, there's health care that you are also provided. And it's really cool to know that the cost of health care doesn't impact my salary because the company covers it for us, you know. So that's peace of mind for me as far as my family, my wife, my child is on our health care. So, you know, knowing that I don't have to pay for that, you know, that's definitely a blessing. The stocks, I can't stress it. Like, the stocks is the big part. Like, to me, you know, I'll say, because it's one thing to get paid, great, but I think stocks opens up a world of opportunities for one that, depending on how much you know, we can get into it later videos for sure, but I appreciate knowing that, hey, yes, I have this coming, but I also have this sitting back here as well. You know, these few buckets actually sitting back here that I can make it work with what my salary is today. Cool. But I have some wiggle room and opportunities I can make it shake with, you know, whether that's using some of the stock to maybe get an investment property of some sort, which I've done, you know, there's so many opportunities. So I think that that's a big perk of working in tech, where it's like, hey, these companies, we have these products in our home, you know, like, why not own a piece of the pot, you know? And no, it's not the amount, the piece that these CEOs of these companies own, but it's a piece. I still get a invite to the shareholder meetings to understand, hey, what's the plan for the next 6 months or the next year, you know? And based on those plans, you can have a vision on, hey, how will this stock perform, you know, and this investment perform, I'll say. But that's a really cool part about it as well, where, you know, you're not just signing for what your salary will be annually. You're also signing for these stock packages. A lot to capture there, but overall, like, my journey in working in tech, I would say has been pretty great. You know, yes, there's harder days. Yes, there's harder time periods. There was, but in hindsight, I think it was all worth it. Just staying down, you know, whether it brought me to tears, whether I had to, you know, really find a different version of salve, like, to really get through that period I was in. You know, at the time I'm creating this video, what I'm able to share as a result of that process that I feel like God put me through, that's it's all worth it to be able to share here with you all, you know. And this is the first of many, you know, at least this is what I know, you know. So I'm just hoping that throughout this journey, I can just bring you guys along how I'm learning, continue to learn more from you all and your desires, your, you know, what are you interested in this space? Why are you even interested in working in tech? And, you know, we can learn together. You know, I'm trying to build that community of learners and go-getters, you know, who are ultimately trying to increase our impact and our income in whatever it is we do, you know, ideally the tech space, you know. But hey, there's something we can learn from everyone here, you know. And yeah, that's kind of it. Talked about the environment, the lifestyle, and the perks of working in tech. And I hope this helps. Thank you.